dark highway at night. The sound of tires on gravel, eerie wind whistling, and faint crickets in the distance. The camera pans over an old desolate road, headlights piercing through the darkness. Have you ever driven down a lonely highway at night, where the silence feels too loud and the darkness seems alive? What if I told you, not everything you see in your rearview mirror belongs to this world? Tonight, I'll take you on a ride you'll never forget. A ride where reality blurs and terror takes the wheel. Let's talk about the legend of the vanishing hitchhiker. Visuals of Route 66, long stretches of road, dim streetlights, and a crescent moon. It was a cold, moonlit night on Route 66 in Arizona. A trucker, known only as Dave, was hauling freight across the barren desert. The road stretched endlessly ahead of him, and the radio crackled faintly with static, sound of a distant howl. Now, if you've ever driven at night, you know how your mind starts playing tricks on you. Every shadow looks like a monster, and every creak in your car feels like the start of a horror movie. But for Dave, this wasn't his imagination. If you were alone on a highway and saw someone waving you down, would you stop? Be honest, because either you're a saint or you've watched way fewer horror movies than I have. Dave, unfortunately, wasn't a big horror fan. Visual of Dave's truck slowing down as he spots a figure on the roadside. A young woman in a white dress, waving timidly. He saw her standing there, frail, pale, and shivering in the cold. Her dress fluttered in the wind, and her face seemed almost too perfect, like it didn't belong in this world. Truck door creaks open. She asked for a ride to the next town. Her voice was soft, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. Dave hesitated but nodded. She climbed into the passenger seat, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. At first it seemed normal, but as they drove, Dave couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She barely spoke, only giving vague answers about her destination. Her hands rested in her lap, too still, too lifeless. Sudden thudded sound from the truck. Okay now, if your passenger isn't speaking and random noises start coming from your vehicle, what's the move? Check it out? Or floor it and pray? Dave chose neither. Dave glances into his rearview mirror, the reflection showing an empty seat where the woman should be. When he looked in the mirror, his heart stopped. The passenger's seat was empty. He slammed on the brakes, his truck screeching to a halt. Turning to look directly, the seat is still empty. She was gone. Eerie whispering sound, shaking. Dave got out of the truck, searching the dark road. There was no sign of her, not a footprint, not a single trace. It was like she never existed. Let me ask you, what would you do next? Call the cops? Drive like your life depends on it? Or maybe, just maybe, pretend it was all a bad dream? I mean, what's the protocol for picking up a ghost? Dave, he chose the worst option. Dave drives to the nearest diner, pale and shaken, recounting the story to the locals. When he told the story, the diner went silent. An old man in the corner spoke up, his voice raspy with age. You picked her up on Dead Man's Curve, didn't you? That's the hitchhiker they talk about. She died there 50 years ago. Dave stares in disbelief as the locals nod solemnly. That's when it hit him. The cold hands, the lifeless stare, her sudden disappearance. She wasn't human. She never was. But here's the thing. Dave wasn't the last to see her. Reports of a vanishing hitchhiker still flood that stretch of Route 66. And every time, the story ends the same way, with someone disappearing forever. So tell me, the next time you're driving late at night and you see someone on the roadside, will you stop? You ever been followed? Not by a stranger in the daylight, but by something that shouldn't exist. Welcome to Clinton Road, the most haunted stretch of asphalt in America. What happened here will leave you questioning reality itself. Let's take a drive down this infamous road, if you dare. Clinton Road in New Jersey isn't your typical highway. Sure, it's just 10 miles long, but those 10 miles are a portal to the unexplained. Ghosts, cults, even a phantom truck. All the locals have their own horror story. But the scariest tale? The phantom car. This isn't your average urban legend. It's a nightmare on wheels. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, another ghost car, what's next? Haunted bicycles. Stick around. This story will have you second-guessing every night drive you've ever taken. Let's meet Jake, a skeptic who thought Clinton Road was just another spooky story. Until one night, he decided to prove everyone wrong. Jake was the kind of guy who didn't believe in ghosts or curses. To him, Clinton Road was just a road. So on a chilly October night, he decided to drive its full length, alone. It was quiet, almost too quiet. Then it started. Sound of a faint engine revving. Jake glances in his rearview mirror. At first, it was just headlights in the distance. No big deal, right? But the car wasn't just following. It was matching his every move. Speed up, it sped up. Slow down, it slowed down. And when he tried to let it pass, Jake pulls over to the shoulder. The headlights behind him stop abruptly. The car didn't pass. It just sat there, its blinding lights boring into Jake's soul. He stepped out, ready to confront the driver, but the sound of a door creaking open. Jake walks toward the headlights, but the car disappears into thin air. A faint whisper is heard. Leave. Jake thought he was losing his mind. He got back in his car, heart pounding, and floored it. But Clinton Road wasn't done with him. Jake speeding down the road, glancing nervously in the mirror. Suddenly the phantom car reappears, this time right on his bumper. The lights flicker unnaturally. The car was back, closer than ever, and it wasn't just following anymore. It was chasing. Jake swerved and skidded, but no matter what he did, those headlights stayed locked onto him. And then Jake's car abruptly stalls. He slams the steering wheel, panicking. The phantom car pulls up beside him, but instead of a driver, there's nothing, just an empty seat. Imagine this happening to you. You're stuck on a haunted road. A ghost car is chasing you, and your engine decides to take a nap. Would you cry, scream, or just pretend it's not happening? Jake, he went with option 4, sheer panic. Jake fumbling with his keys, muttering under his breath. Jake finally got his car started and tore down the road, praying he'd make it to the end. But as the headlights faded behind him, he realized the road didn't want him to leave. Shows the road looping endlessly. Jake keeps driving, but every turn looks the same. He starts yelling in frustration. No matter how far he drove, he couldn't escape. It was as if Clinton Road was holding him captive. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the road spit him out. Jake found himself at a gas station, shaking and confused. But when he looked back at the road, Jake turns to see nothing but darkness. The road behind him is gone. Jake swore he'd never drive Clinton Road again. But here's the thing, he's not alone. Dozens of people have reported the same phantom car, the same unexplainable terror. The question is, what happens if the road doesn't let you go? So tell me, would you dare take a drive down Clinton Road? Or will you wait until it comes for you? If you enjoyed this chilling tale, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories that will keep you up at night. And tell us in the comments, what's the scariest thing you've ever encountered on the road? We're dying to know. Imagine moving into your dream home, quiet street, friendly neighbors. Everything seems perfect, but what if I told you that your neighbors weren't exactly real? This is not just a ghost story. This happened to someone, and it could happen to you. Emily and her husband, Jake, were overjoyed when they found the house. A cozy 2-story home on Maple Lane. Their daughter, Lily, loved the family next door. A mom, dad, and their little boy, Timmy. Perfect, right? Only this family had a secret, and soon Emily would wish she'd never moved in. At first, everything seemed normal. Barbecues, smiles, polite waves. But then, odd things started happening. Like the time Emily saw Timmy standing alone in the dark, barefoot, in the middle of December. Seriously, who lets their kid freeze like that? Unless they're trying to freak out the neighbors. Emily knocking on the neighbor's door, no one answers. She looks concerned, but when Emily tried to check on them, the house was empty. No furniture, no lights, nothing. Yet the next morning, they were back, smiling like nothing happened. Emily and Jake researching the house late at night, faces lit by the laptop screen. Jake thought Emily was imagining things, but she couldn't shake the feeling, so she did some digging. And what she found sent shivers down her spine. 20 years ago, a family exactly like theirs lived in that house. One night they vanished. No sign of a struggle, no explanation. Just gone. Oh, and guess where they were last seen? That's right, standing in Emily's front yard. It got worse. Emily started hearing footsteps at night. Jake heard whispers in the walls. And Lily? She said Timmy wanted her to come play in their basement. Emily finding Lily standing in the dark basement, talking to someone unseen. Lights flicker, but no one was there, or so they thought. Emily frantically packing bags while Jake argues. Emily knew they had to leave, but Jake insisted it was all in her head. He should have listened, because that night, the neighbors vanished again. Emily looking out the window, where the neighbor's house was, there's now just an empty lot. Not empty as in quiet, empty as in the house was gone, like it had never existed. Emily grabs Lily. Jake looks out in shock. Eerie whispers fill the air, and then Jake turned to her and whispered, "I think they're inside our house now." Emily and Jake checking the house. Lights flicker, doors creak. That night, Emily locked every door, checked every window. But at 3 a.m. she woke up to the sound of Lily giggling. Emily walking down the hallway, whispering Lily's name. Shadows dart in the corners, and when she opened Lily's door, the room was empty. No bed, no toys, no Lily. They say some families are cursed to disappear, but others, they just take your place. What would you do if your family just disappeared? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget, sometimes your neighbors might be watching you right now. Sleep tight.